Welcome to the Travel Podcast by ExcursionPass.
Mm.
We are so glad you're hanging out with us today.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. We've got a really fun one lined up.
We really do. And, a lot of you write in and say, you love how we try to anticipate your objections before you even book a trip.
Right, like we try to be that friend who's already lived the experience and can just, spill all the details.
Exactly. We want to give you that hyper-immersive feel, like you are right there with us. And today, we were doing a deep dive into Jamaica's legendary Martha Brae River.
Oh, the Martha Brae. It is such an iconic spot.
It really is. And our mission today is to figure out if this bamboo rafting experience is a genuine, cultural touchstone.
Yeah.
Or if it's morphed into a total captive tourist trap.
Because it's kind of a wild story, right? I mean, back in the 1800s, these 30-foot bamboo rafts were basically the heavy lifting workhorses of Jamaica's agricultural trade.
Yeah, they were industrial barges, just hauling massive, massive yields of sugarcane from the inland plantations all the way down the rivers to the coast.
Right. And today you're paying, like $70 to sit on one of those exact same rafts and get a massage.
It is the ultimate pivot. But to really get what this deep dive is about, we need to set the scene. Put yourself on the water right now.
Yes. Imagine you are stepping onto this 30-foot-long platform, and it's made entirely of these thick green bamboo stalks just lashed together.
And the air, it's heavy, right? You can literally smell wild orchids in the jungle.
Exactly. You hear the rhythmic tapping of native woodpeckers up in the canopy. And then when you look over the side of the raft...
You're not looking at murky water.
No, not at all. You aren't looking at churned-up river mud. You are looking into this mesmerizing, intensely jade green water.
It sounds perfect. But wait, I have to stop you right there and just address the elephant in the room.
Uh-oh. What's the elephant?
Well, the moment the word rafting gets thrown into a travel itinerary, a very specific image pops into your head.
Oh, right. You're picturing helmets.
Helmets, tight neon life jackets, white knuckles.
Battle in Class 4 rapids.
Exactly. And honestly, not everyone wants to fight for their life against a current while they're on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. You can throw that image out entirely. The local guides actually refer to the Martha Brae experience as a romantic meander.
A romantic meander. I like that.
It is not about adrenaline at all. It's all about deceleration. There are no rapids here. The gradient of the river is just incredibly low.
So the water's just barely moving.
Yeah, it moves at a walking pace. You aren't battling the current. You're really just surrendering to it.
I've seen people compare it to a Venetian gondola ride. But honestly, even that metaphor feels a little off to me.
How so?
Well, a gondola is small, right? And it navigates these tight, man-made canals in a city. Here we are talking about a 30-foot vessel made of giant grass winding through a wild Caribbean jungle.
That is a very fair point.
Functionally, steering something that massive without a motor, isn't just rowing. It's got to be like trying to steer a stretch limousine using a single stick.
That is actually a highly accurate way to look at it. Because the captains, they don't row, they punt.
Punt, right, like with a long pole.
Exactly. They use this huge bamboo pole to push off the riverbed. And because bamboo is hollow, it's segmented by these internodes that trap air.
Which makes it float.
Right. It makes the raft incredibly buoyant. But like you said, a 30-foot craft has massive inertia. Once it starts moving, it really wants to keep moving in that direction.
So the captains are just fighting physics the whole time.
Well, they aren't just using brute force. They are actually reading the unseen topography of the riverbed. They anticipate the current's drag to sort of glide the raft around bends.
Wow.
It requires this intimate, highly localized knowledge of fluid dynamics. It's honestly beautiful to watch.
It sounds almost like an art form. And the canvas for this art is the parish of Trelawney.
Trelawney, yes.
Which, when we dug into our sources for this deep dive, a detail jumped out that just perfectly highlights the duality of this place.
Oh, the birthplace thing.
Yes. This sleepy, slow-paced, deeply relaxing parish. It happens to be the birthplace of Olympic sprinter Usain Bolt.
I love that. The birthplace of the fastest man in human history is home to literally the slowest, most chilled-out excursion on the island.
The irony is just fantastic. But, it's not just local legends. Over the decades, the Martha Brae has hosted a completely unexpected list of celebrities.
Oh, yeah, the Hall of Fame.
Right. We're talking Chuck Norris. We're talking Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash was on a bamboo raft.
Yes. They've all floated down this exact same waterway, which tells me this place has had an informal sort of VIP status for a very long time.
Well, it gained that status precisely because it offered elite seclusion. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Before mass tourism infrastructure existed, getting to a remote jungle river was really difficult.
It was an actual escape from the public eye.
Exactly. But today, obviously, it is heavily promoted as a top-tier excursion from Montego Bay. It's been democratized.
And that brings up my biggest initial skepticism, and probably yours too if you're listening.
Let's hear it.
If an experience is famous enough that Johnny Cash did it decades ago, and now 1,000-passenger cruise ships are just funneling people toward it every Tuesday,
Right.
how does it not turn into a theme park ride? Because I just imagine an assembly line of bamboo rafts bumper carring their way down the river, surrounded by screaming tourists.
Yeah, that's a completely valid concern, the fear that the magic has been diluted by scale. But if we look at the Traveler's Choice 2026 data,
Which is a massive data set.
over 2,000 reviews, and the Martha Brae holds a 4.5 out of 5 bubble rating.
That's high.
It's very high. And you simply do not maintain that kind of statistical consensus if your operation is a chaotic, congested mess.
Well, how do they manage the crowds?
It relies heavily on staggered dispatching.
How does that actually work in practice, though? Like on the water?
So the captains use their spatial awareness and the river's natural bends to create auditory and visual isolation. For example, there's a review we looked at from a traveler named Melissa W. She took her family, kids aged 10 and 12 on one raft, and she and her husband were on another.
Oh, so they were split up.
Right. And she detailed how the captains communicated to ensure the two family rafts stayed within sight of each other.
Oh, that's nice.
But they intentionally hung back far enough from the strangers ahead of them. So once they rounded a bend, the jungle literally just swallowed the noise.
The jungle itself blocks the sound.
Yeah, the dense foliage acts as natural acoustic dampening. So even if there are 50 rafts on the river that day, your localized experience remains totally private.
So they're essentially buffering the traffic flow using the jungle canopy.
Exactly.
That is brilliant. Okay, so we've established that the vibe is genuinely peaceful. It's not a whitewater nightmare, and it's not a crowded theme park. Let's get into the nuts and bolts.
The logistics.
Yeah, if you are committing your vacation time and a chunk of your budget to this, what actually happens during the ride?
Well, first, we really need to clarify the timeline, because excursion brochures can be a little deceptive.
Oh, yeah.
The total trip is usually listed as 2.5 hours, but the actual time on the water, like actively moving down the river, is only about an hour.
Wait, so where does the other hour and a half go?
It's chewed up by ground transportation, the check-in process, and just walking the grounds at the disembarkation point.
Okay, that is super important to know. And looking at the pricing data, there is a massive variance here that feels like a modular tourism trap if you aren't paying attention.
Yeah, the pricing can be wild.
A base ticket for just the raft ride is around $70. But then there are dozens of private and combo packages that skyrocket up to like $300. What exactly is driving that markup?
It's mostly logistics and convenience. In Jamaica, private air-conditioned transportation from your resort is expensive.
Oh, right. Gas and private drivers.
Right. The higher-end packages bundle the river with other geographically distant sites like Dunn's River Falls or the Luminous Lagoon.
Yeah.
So you are really paying a premium to have a single operator orchestrate the complex logistics of moving you safely and comfortably across the island.
That makes total sense. You're paying for the mental luxury of not having to hail a cab or figure out Google Maps in a different country.
Exactly.
So, okay, you are on the water for an hour. I imagine sitting completely still on a flat piece of bamboo for 60 minutes could actually get a little monotonous.
Well, it's not just sitting like a statue. Our sources mention it's highly interactive. You can actually get off the raft mid-ride.
Wait, you can swim?
You can, and you definitely should. The captains actively encourage you to trail your hands in the water. And when they reach a deep, slow-moving pool, they'll steady the raft so you can just slip right off and swim.
But wait, if thousands of people are taking this trip and these 30-foot poles are constantly jabbing into the riverbed to push these heavy rafts, shouldn't the water be incredibly muddy?
You would think so, right?
Yeah. But you mentioned earlier it was jade green. Why is it so clear?
It all comes down to the geological makeup of the region. The Martha Brae flows through a limestone karst landscape,
Limestone karst.
which means the water is extremely rich in dissolved calcium carbonate.
And what does that do?
Well, this mineral content actually absorbs the red end of the light spectrum, and it scatters the blue and green light back to our eyes. That's what gives it that vivid jade color.
Oh, wow. So it's basically an optical illusion powered by minerals.
Yep. Furthermore, the limestone acts as a natural binder. Instead of loose, easily churned topsoil, the riverbed is mostly solid rock and heavy sand.
Ah.
So when they push the poles down, they aren't kicking up massive clouds of blinding silt.
That is fascinating. The geology is literally keeping the water pristine despite the heavy traffic.
It's nature's filter.
And speaking of that limestone, it leads to what seems to be the absolute standout highlight of the trip.
The massage.
Yes, review after review, including this really detailed one from a traveler named Crystal. She rode with Captain Nelson. By the way, she just raves about the limestone massage.
The limestone massage is just a brilliant example of utilizing the local ecology for an elevated experience.
What happens exactly?
So along the riverbanks, there are these pockets of soft, naturally occurring river limestone. The captains harvest a handful of this mineral, mix it with a splash of river water right there on the raft.
Like they just make it on the spot?
Right there on the spot, they create this thick paste, and then they apply it directly to your legs and arms.
Mechanically, though, what is that actually doing to your skin? Because people are calling it a luxury spa treatment, but it's essentially just river mud.
Oh, it is much more than mud. Remember that calcium carbonate we just talked about?
Yep.
It is mildly abrasive, which means it acts as a highly effective physical exfoliant. It's gently sloughing off dead skin cells as they rub it in.
Okay, so it's a natural scrub.
Exactly. But beyond the physical friction, limestone is alkaline.
Meaning?
The slightly elevated pH can have a real soothing effect on the skin, neutralizing acidic sweat or mild irritants like bug bites. And then when it dries in the sun and you finally wash it off in the cool river, your skin feels remarkably soft. It transforms a passive boat ride into a deeply tactile memory.
It's a geological spa day on a bamboo barge. I absolutely love that.
It's very cool.
But, okay, before we get too swept up in the romance of the jade water and the exfoliation, we do need to talk about accessibility and what you actually need to bring. From the sources, the checklist is pretty straightforward. Bug spray is a must, a towel, sunscreen, your swimsuit obviously, and crucially, extra cash. We'll get to the cash in a second, but first let's talk physical limits.
Yeah.
Because a 30-foot bamboo raft is not exactly an ADA-compliant cruise ship.
Not at all, and it's so important to know this before booking. The physics of a raft rely completely on water displacement.
Right.
The official guidelines enforce a strict maximum of 2 adults per raft, plus the captain.
So no squeezing a third adult on.
No. Any more weight, and the bamboo sinks too low, creating drag that makes it literally impossible to steer.
And getting on it isn't super easy either, is it?
Right, boarding the raft requires stepping onto a slightly unstable floating surface. It demands a baseline level of balance and core strength.
Got it.
For this reason, it is strongly advised against for individuals with physical disabilities, severe back or neck problems, motion sickness, or anyone recovering from recent surgeries.
It is vital to know your physical limits. Now, let's pivot to the psychological limits.
Oh boy.
Because this is where our deep dive gets into the real friction of the experience. Every travel brochure paints this as pure paradise, but we found a starkly different reality lurking in the one-star reviews.
Yeah. Whenever you have a pristine natural resource operating within an economy heavily reliant on tourist dollars, you are going to encounter commercial friction. It's just unavoidable.
Exactly. And the contrast in the reviews is giving me whiplash, honestly.
It's totally polarized.
On one hand, travelers are praising guides like Ronaldo and Captain Nelson, calling them incredible storytellers who made the trip magical. But then you read an account from a traveler named Sylvia R., and she explicitly called her trip, quote, a pure coffee ride.
To fully grasp the weight of Sylvia's complaint, we have to define that term.
What is a coffee ride?
The phrase coffee ride or coffee fart originates in European tourism.
Okay.
It describes a cheap, heavily subsidized bus trip where usually seniors are lured in with the promise of free coffee and cake.
Sounds nice so far.
Right. Until they are driven to a remote inn, locked in a room, and aggressively pressured to buy expensive pots, pans, or electric blankets.
Oh, wow. So it's a trap.
The sightseeing is a complete ruse. The primary objective is forced retail.
So Sylvia felt that the breathtaking jungle was just a scenic backdrop for a high-pressure sales pitch.
Exactly.
She noted paying 60 euros a person for what was supposed to be an hour of relaxation. But she claimed the guide sped through the actual rafting in about 15 minutes, just prioritizing stops to aggressively sell drinks in drafts.
It's a captive audience monetization strategy.
And that phrase, captive audience, is terrifying when you're on a boat.
That is the exact psychological mechanism at play. Think about the environment. You are sitting on a small section of a raft in the middle of a river. You cannot simply walk away.
Right.
Let's examine the review from Mark P. He described feeling actively intimidated.
Intimidated.
Yes. According to his account, his captain brought along personal wood carvings and placed them directly at Mark's feet on the raft.
That crosses a line for me.
It's very aggressive.
If a vendor is walking down a beach, I can just shake my head and look at my book. But if the vendor is piloting the boat I am physically trapped on, and he puts his merchandise literally on my toes, that creates an immense amount of social pressure.
It completely disrupts the power dynamic of hospitality. Mark noted that the captain even demanded a tip before the ride began.
Before it began.
Yes. So when you combine the physical isolation of the raft with upfront demands for cash and inescapable merchandise, the romantic meander quickly devolves into a really uncomfortable hostage situation.
That sounds incredibly stressful. And the breakdown in customer service doesn't just happen on the water. We also looked at the infrastructure at the disembarkation point.
Oh, the review from DT.
Yes, there's a review from a traveler named DT that is genuinely hard to read. They visited in September and got caught in a torrential jungle downpour.
Which, to be fair, sudden heavy rain is a natural hazard of visiting a tropical rainforest ecosystem. I mean, the precipitation is why the jungle is so lush.
Absolutely, and DT acknowledged they were totally fine with the rain itself. The failure wasn't meteorological, it was entirely hospitality-based.
Right.
They arrived at the bar and restaurant area at the end of the line soaking wet. They had a 4-year-old child with them, and they were actually trying to celebrate a birthday.
It should have been a great day.
But according to the review, the staff at the facility completely ignored them. The workers allegedly looked up, saw a soaking wet family shivering with a toddler, and just put their heads back down on the tables to continue napping.
It is a profound failure of basic empathy, let alone customer service.
It really is.
No towels were offered, no warm drinks. When DT actively asked for directions to locate their car in the rain, they were met with silence. The reviewer explicitly stated they felt this neglect was discriminatory.
Which completely shatters the illusion of that warm, welcoming Jamaican hospitality that all the brochures promise.
It does.
So we're looking at two extreme realities occurring on the exact same river. You have ecstatic 5-star geological spa days.
And you have 1-star, high-pressure, negligent coffee rides.
Exactly. How do you, as a traveler, prepare for an ecosystem that volatile?
You have to dismantle the fantasy before you arrive.
What do you mean?
You must accept that the Martha Brae is not an untouched Eden. It is a highly active commercial engine. The guides are independent contractors trying to maximize their daily yield in an economy with high inflation.
Okay, so it's their livelihood.
Right. The key to ensuring you get the 5-star experience is establishing your boundaries before you ever step onto the bamboo.
And I think the tactical approach here is carrying small denominations of cash.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you only have $50 bills, you are going to feel anxious about tipping or buying a $5 beer. Bring 5s and 10s. And more importantly, you have to be comfortable saying no with a smile within the first 5 minutes.
Precisely. If the carvings appear at your feet, do not politely ignore them. Address it immediately.
Just hit it head on.
A firm, friendly, these are beautiful, but I am not carrying cash for souvenirs today. I'm just here for the quiet. Sets the social contract early.
That's great advice.
It removes the ambiguity. The captain knows a sale isn't happening, and they can pivot their energy back to storytelling and navigating the limestone.
Because managing expectations changes the entire dynamic. If you go in knowing the hustle is part of the local ecosystem, it won't trigger your defense mechanisms, and you can actually relax.
Exactly.
So let's bring it all together for the final verdict.
Drumroll.
After dissecting the industrial history, the fluid dynamics of punting a 30-foot barge, the chemistry of the limestone massage, and the captive psychology of the upsell, is the Martha Brae rafting excursion actually worth booking?
Objectively, yes.
You think so?
I do. The physical beauty of the karst landscape and the unique mechanics of the traditional raft create an experience that is incredibly difficult to replicate anywhere else in the Caribbean.
I completely agree. It is a must-do, provided you strip away the brochure fantasy.
Yes, eyes wide open.
Bring small bills, state your boundaries early, appreciate the sheer physical skill of your captain navigating that massive vessel, and just let yourself enjoy the slow pace.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay, lay it on us.
It builds on that history of the sugarcane barges we discussed at the very beginning. We know these massive rafts were industrial tools, but what's really fascinating is the material itself. Bamboo.
What about it?
Well, bamboo isn't actually wood, it's a grass. And it is one of the fastest growing plants on the planet. Some species can grow up to 3 feet in a single day.
3 feet in a day. That's insane.
It's wild. And the tourism industry on the Martha Brae requires a constant, massive supply of these 30-foot stalks to replace older, waterlogged rafts.
Oh, right, because they must rot eventually being in the water all day.
Exactly. They get heavy and they rot. But because bamboo regenerates so aggressively, harvesting it for these thousands of tourists is largely sustainable.
Huh.
It prevents the local industry from needing to chop down slow-growing native hardwood trees to build fiberglass or wooden boats.
Oh, wow.
So as you float down the river, surrounded by untouched jungle, consider this, the very instrument of mass tourism beneath your feet might actually be the biological loophole that is keeping that exact same gyre alive.
Wow. The idea that the tourist trap is structurally protecting the forest, that completely rewires how I look at the whole excursion.
It really does.
It's not just a ride, it's a sustainable ecological loop. Thank you so much for bringing that perspective.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the Martha Brae. We've armed you with the history, the science, and the socioeconomic realities.
So when you go, you're ready.
Exactly. When you finally step onto that bamboo, you'll know exactly what to expect. Set your boundaries, ask for the limestone massage, and let the jade current do the work. We'll catch you in the next deep dive on the travel podcast by ExcursionPass.